The anonymous review comes in at 3 a.m., claims lack reproducibility, recommend rejection. I check the reviewer IP through the journal portal. It routes through our campus VPN. I screenshot, save to encrypted drive, and go back to the bench. He's still there. He always stays late. The lab at 4 a.m. has its own language. The cryostorage units breathe in cycles, compressors sighing. The biosafety cabinets cast a weak blue glow. I know every sound by heart. 3 years of nights and weekends will do that. My name is Elena Voss. I'm 28, 6 months from defending my dissertation, and I thought I understood the calculus of academic theft. Graduate students trade horror stories the way construction workers trade coffee. It's bitter, it keeps you awake, and you pretend the next job won't be the one where the scaffold breaks. Dr. Leonard Weiland recruited me personally. He was 48 then, rising star in the gene editing field, recent HHM1 investigator. His lab had produced 2 Nature papers in 3 years. He sat across from me at a recruitment dinner, pushed the bread basket toward me, and said, "Elena, I don't want a technician. I want a colleague who can think past the obvious." I believed him. I believed him when he praised my rotation project, when he allocated prime bench space to me, when he submitted the large NIH grant with my preliminary data and listed me as a co-investigator, even though the university didn't allow graduate students that title officially. He said, "The title doesn't matter. What matters is the work." I thought he meant the science. Tonight, the work is 64 vials. Each contains a modified AAV9 vector carrying a corrected copy of the GRN gene. Frontotemporal dementia. There is no cure. There is no treatment. My mother was diagnosed 3 years ago, 2 weeks before I accepted the offer from Weiland Lab. I didn't tell him that. I didn't want to be the pity case, the student with the dying parent, the one whose emotional urgency might be mistaken for scientific desperation. I wanted to earn this. The vectors are stable at minus 80 degrees Celsius. I've optimized the purification protocol myself, 16 iterations over 18 months. The in vivo data from the transgenic mice is clean. Not just clean, unprecedented. 4 of the 6 treated animals show complete reversal of neuroinflammatory markers. 2 are functionally indistinguishable from wild-type littermates. Weiland presented the preliminary results at a closed symposium 3 months ago. I wasn't invited. He told me, "It's politics, Elena. I need to gauge the room before we put your name forward. You don't want to be associated with a failure if the reviewers are hostile." I accepted that too. I accept a lot of things. I accept that the Building Services Union went on strike, and the temperature logs in our 80s show a 4-hour fluctuation. I accept that the animal care staff is overworked, and 2 of my GRN mice were found dead with no necropsy. I accept that Dr. Weiland's R01 grant is up for renewal, and he's been unusually tense, snapping at postdocs, rewriting the same figure legend for 3 days. I accept it because I have to, because I'm 6 months from defense, because the patent office moves slowly and authorship disputes move even slower, because my mother called me this morning and couldn't remember my father's face, only his voice, low and kind, and I have to believe that the work matters more than the credit. Then I see him through the glass door of the cryo storage room. It's 4:17 a.m. He should be home. He has a wife, 2 teenage daughters, a house in the hills. Instead, he's standing at the central workstation. My black master notebook open under the task light. He's not reading. His phone is positioned on a retort stand, camera lens aimed at the page. He swipes, pauses, swipes again. His face is placid, unhurried, the expression of a man photocopying a form he misplaced. I watch for 14 seconds before he turns the page. My hands are inside the biosafety cabinet. I finish the aliquot. I cap the last vial. I rack it. Then I close the cabinet sash and walk toward the cryo storage door. He hears my footsteps. His body shifts, torso rotating to block the notebook. The phone disappears into his lab coat pocket with practiced ease. "Elena, you're here early." His voice is warm, almost paternal. He taps the notebook cover. "I was just reviewing your last synthesis run. The yield is impressive." "Thank you." My voice sounds like it belongs to someone else. I wanted to bank the final batch before the sequencing core opens. Good, good. He closes the notebook. Listen, I've been thinking about the patent filing. The University Tech Transfer Office is pressuring me to narrow the claims. Too broad invites rejection. He pauses as if weighing a difficult decision. I may need to list myself as sole inventor on the provisional, just initially, to get it through. We can amend later. Sole inventor, 3 years of my work, my optimization of the capsid serotype, my solution to the blood-brain barrier penetration problem, my mother cells donated under an IRB protocol I wrote. Sole inventor. Of course, I say, I understand. He pats my shoulder. You're a team player, Elena. That's rare. He gathers his jacket, his bag, his unrepentant posture. Get some rest. You've earned it. The door swings shut behind him. I stand alone in the blue glow. The cryostorage units breathe. My vials wait at -80. I wait until my hands stop shaking. Then I pull up the campus security directory on my phone and dial a number I never thought I'd call. Chapter 2. The photograph that doesn't exist. Campus security arrives at 5:30 a.m. Officer Ramirez is a woman in her late 40s with gray threaded through her ponytail and the patient wariness of someone who has seen too many drunk freshmen insist they were kidnapped. I tell her I need to report a theft of intellectual property. She asks if the property is physical, like a laptop or a hard drive. I say no, it's pages. She asks if I have proof. I say I saw him photographing them. She asks if I have the photographs. I say no, they're on his phone. She asks if he's still on campus. I say no. She writes something in her notebook, then closes it. Ma'am, without a physical item and without witnesses or corroborating video, this is a conduct issue. You need to speak to the Ombuds's office or the Dean of Graduate Studies. She hands me a card. If he removes physical equipment, call us immediately. I thank her. I take the card. I go back to my bench. The Ombuds's office opens at 9. The Dean's office opens at 10. I have 4 hours. I use them. I log into the lab's shared server. My permissions are standard. Read, write, execute on my own directories. I can't see Weiland's personal folder, but I can see the audit logs for file access. I sort by timestamp. 3 weeks ago, someone accessed my raw imaging files from the mouse trials at 2:15 a.m. The access credential was a generic administrator override. That means the user was either Weiland or the IT system administrator. I don't believe in coincidences. I checked the revision history on my manuscript draft. Yesterday at 11:47 p.m., the author list was modified. My name was moved from second position to fifth. A new first author was added, Leonard Weiland, Ph.D. The changelog shows the edit was made from an IP address in the campus library. I take screenshots. I email them to a Proton Mail account I set up 6 months ago after the first time I found my notebook moved 3 inches to the left of where I left it. Paranoia, I told myself. You're becoming one of those graduate students. The ones who see conspiracies in every coffee mug left on their bench. I told myself that, and I set up the Proton Mail account anyway. At 6:45 a.m., I walk to the animal facility. The night tech is a kid named Kevin, 22, studying for the MCAT. MCAT. He's sleepy, undercaffeinated, grateful for conversation. I ask if anyone from our lab has requested additional tissue samples from the GRN cohort. He checks the log. Weiland picked up the fixed brains from 409, 412, and 417 yesterday. Said he needed them for independent histology. 409, 412, 417, my 3 best responders. The animals that showed complete reversal, the ones I hadn't yet sacrificed. I thank Kevin. I walk back to the lab. I sit at my bench and stare at the incubator for a long time. The protocol is clear. Tissue analysis must be conducted by the researcher who performed the original procedure or co-signed by that researcher. It's an integrity measure designed to prevent data cherry-picking. Weiland didn't just take my data. He took the physical evidence so that no one could ever verify or replicate it independently. The brains are fixed. They can be sectioned, stained, imaged, but the chain of custody is broken. If he publishes histology from those animals without my name, I have no way to prove the tissue came from my cohort unless the embedding medium still carries my initials. I don't know if it does. I don't know if he's that careful or that reckless. At 9 a.m., I call the ombuds office. The director is a retired law professor named Harriet Vance. She listens without interrupting. When I finish, she is silent for 7 seconds. Then she says, "Dr. Weiland has an excellent reputation. This is a very serious allegation. Do you have documentation?" I describe the audit logs, the manuscript revision, the tissue pickup. She asks if I have physical copies of my notebooks. I say yes, I keep duplicates at home. She asks if I have ever discussed authorship expectations with Dr. Weiland in writing. I say no, it was all verbal. She sighs. It is not a sigh of disbelief. It is the sigh of someone who has heard this story in a dozen different dialects and knows the ending is rarely just. "I can facilitate a mediation session," she says. "Both parties present, a neutral third party. You can present your concerns. He can respond. It's confidential, non-binding. And if he denies everything, then you have to decide whether to file a formal grievance. That process takes months. You'll need evidence, witnesses, legal representation if you can afford it. The burden of proof is on you." I thank her. I take her referral card. I add it to the growing stack. At 10:30 a.m., I meet with Dean Srinivasan. He is younger than I expected, maybe 45, with rimless glasses and a framed photograph of his children on the credenza. He offers coffee. I decline. I tell him the same story. He listens with his fingertips pressed together, forming a steeple. When I finish, he leans back. "Elena, I'm going to be direct with you. Leonard Weiland brings in approximately $4 million in grant funding annually. He has placed 12 graduates in tenure-track positions over the past decade. The university is in the middle of a capital campaign, and he is one of the faces we put on the brochures." He pauses. "You are a graduate student. I don't say that to diminish you. I say it to prepare you for the reality of how these situations resolve. Even if you are entirely correct, and I'm not saying you aren't, the institutional incentive is to protect the asset, not the individual. So I should do nothing." I didn't say that. I said you should be strategic. He opens his hands. "Document everything. Consult an attorney. Consider whether this project is worth the fight or whether you'd be better served by graduating quickly with your degree and pursuing the science elsewhere. Sometimes winning means knowing when to leave." I leave his office at 11:15 a.m. I don't remember walking through the corridors. I don't remember waiting for the elevator. I remember standing in front of the water fountain on the 3rd floor, watching the arc of water, thinking about my mother. She doesn't know who I am on her bad days. On her good days, she thinks I'm still in high school. She asks if I've finished my college applications yet. I say yes, I got in. She smiles and says she always knew I would. I walk back to the lab. I sit at my bench. The incubator hums. At 2 p.m., I call a number I memorized 6 months ago. It rings 3 times. A woman answers. "Legal aid for graduate researchers. How can I help you?" I tell her my name is Elena Voss, and I need to speak to an attorney about a patent dispute. She transfers me. A man picks up. His name is Derek Okonkwo. He specializes in academic intellectual property theft. He charges $250 an hour, but he offers a free 30-minute consultation. I take it. I tell him everything. The notebook, the photographs, the audit logs, the manuscript revision, the tissue samples, the dean's gentle redirection, the ombud's mediation offer. He listens without interrupting. When I finish, he asks one question. "Do you still have access to the lab?" "Yes." "Good. Don't resign. Don't transfer. Don't do anything that looks like retreat." He pauses. "Here's what you need to do tonight." Chapter 3. The Evidence Chain. Derek's instructions were precise. First, establish independent verification. Second, create a durable record. Third, remove nothing, copy everything. Fourth, do not confront. Fifth, do not trust the institution's internal processes without leverage. I work through the night. The lab's -80 freezers are organized by project code. Mine is GRN-D17. I access the inventory log and photograph every rack position, every box label, every vial ID. The timestamps embed automatically. I create a document that cross-references each vial with its corresponding animal number, date of harvest, and my initials on the cryo tape. I photograph those too. I do not remove anything. I leave the vials exactly as they are. The server is more complicated. I have read access but cannot download large files without triggering a log entry. Instead, I use my phone to record video of my screen as I scroll through the raw data files. I narrate quietly, describing the file names, dates, experimental conditions. The video is unwieldy, 23 minutes long, but it establishes possession. It proves that on this date, at this time, I had access to unaltered primary data. At 3 a.m., I open the chemical inventory system. I search for the reagents used in my vector purification. The lot numbers, expiration dates, receiving logs, all present, all traceable to orders placed through my procurement account. I photograph those too. At 5 a.m., I email the entire archive, photographs, videos, screenshots, to Derek. He replies with a one-line confirmation. Received. Secure storage initiated. I sleep for 3 hours on the floor of the postdoc office, head pillowed on my lab coat. When I wake, my neck is stiff and my mouth tastes like metal. I drink water from the sink. I brush my teeth with my finger. I go back to work. The lab fills gradually. Undergrads arrive first, bleary and apologetic. The senior postdoc, Fatima, comes in at 9:30. She pauses at my bench. You look terrible. When did you last go home? I'm fine. I don't meet her eyes. Just chasing a deadline. She doesn't push. She's been in the lab 8 years. She knows what chasing a deadline looks like. She also knows not to ask too many questions about what other people are running from. At 11 a.m., Weiland arrives. He walks past my bench without stopping. His office door closes. I hear his voice, low on the phone. I cannot make out the words. Derek calls me at noon. I've spoken with a patent attorney who specializes in university tech transfer. Her name is Cynthia Park. She's expensive but effective. I've sent her your materials. She wants to talk to you. Cynthia Park is in her 60s, silver hair cut in a severe bob, office overlooking the Potomac. Her website lists her clients, 3 Nobel laureates, 2 Fortune 500 biotech firms, 1 former director of the NIH. I am none of those things. She takes my call anyway. Dr. Voss, she says. Not Elena, doctor. I don't correct her. Your evidence is circumstantial but substantial. The IP address match, the tissue pickup, the manuscript revision. Individually, they explain away. Collectively, they create a pattern. She pauses. The problem is timing. A provisional patent can be filed with minimal disclosure. If Weiland files before you, the USPTO will record his submission date as the priority date. You can challenge it, but the burden is enormous. You need to file first. I don't have $5,000 for a patent application. You don't need $5,000. You need a micro-entity provisional. It's $70, which for individuals meeting income criteria. You qualify. She pauses again. But you also need something else. You need data that he cannot claim as his own. Data generated after the date of his alleged theft conducted independently with a verifiable chain of custody. Do you have that? I think about the 64 vials in the -80, the optimized purification protocol, the 4 remaining untreated animals in the colony. I can generate it, but I need time, and I need access to the lab. Then you need to keep your access. Her voice is calm, clinical. Do not provoke him. Do not file a grievance. Do not complain to colleagues. You become invisible. You do your work. You document everything. And you wait for the moment when his greed exceeds his caution. How will I know that moment? You'll know, she says. They always overreach. They always think no one is watching. She ends the call. I stare at my phone. The incubator hums. That night, I go back to the animal facility. Kevin is off. The night tech is a woman I don't recognize. I tell her I need to collect fecal samples from the remaining GRN cohort for microbiome analysis. She checks the protocol. It's approved. She hands me the cage card. I work quickly. 4 mice. Sterile collection tubes. Time-stamped labels. I photograph each step. I record the ambient temperature, the humidity, the position of the cage on the rack. I initial the tape. I store the tubes in a different -80, one not associated with Weiland Lab. It's a shared facility, accessible to any researcher with an approved protocol. The log shows my entry. The log shows my exit. I am not hiding. I am creating a parallel record. For the next 2 weeks, I live this double life. By day, I am Elena the diligent, the uncomplaining, the team player. I attend lab meetings. I present my troubleshooting data on a minor optimization problem. I nod when Weiland offers suggestions. I thank him for his insight. By night, I am Elena the archivist. I sequence the fecal samples. I run ELISAs on serum aliquots I drew months ago and stored in my personal -20 box. I compile graphs, statistics, metadata. I send everything to Derek. He forwards it to Cynthia. She reviews, advises, waits. On day 12, I receive an email from the university's tech transfer office. Subject: provisional patent application. The body is one sentence. We have received a disclosure from Dr. Leonard Weiland regarding technology titled AAV9GRN vectors for treatment of frontotemporal dementia. Please reply to confirm you have no competing claims. I read it 3 times. I do not reply. I forward it to Cynthia. She calls within minutes. He filed the disclosure. That's not the patent itself. It's the university's internal record. He's claiming sole inventorship. Her voice is clipped. This is your window. You have to file your provisional now, tonight. I don't have all the data from the new cohort. You don't need it all. You need enough to establish conception and reduction to practice before his filing date. The provisional doesn't have to be complete. It just has to be dated. She pauses. Elena, you have 72 hours. After that, his priority date locks. I file at 11:47 p.m. on day 13. The USPTO server accepts my submission. I receive a confirmation number. I print the PDF. I store it in the Proton Mail account, in Derek's secure server, in a fireproof safe I bought at an office supply store and installed in my apartment closet. I don't sleep. I don't feel tired. I feel like a wire under tension, humming with current. The next morning, Weiland calls a lab meeting. He stands at the front of the conference room, smiling. Good news, he says. The tech transfer office has approved my provisional patent application. This is a major step toward commercialization. I want to thank everyone who contributed to the preliminary work. He looks around the room. His gaze passes over me. We'll discuss authorship on the forthcoming manuscript separately. Fatima glances at me. I don't glance back. I look at my hands, folded on the table, perfectly still. The meeting ends. People file out. I am last. At the door, Weiland's voice stops me. Elena, a moment. I turn. He is still smiling, but his eyes are cold. I noticed you accessed the animal facility twice last week for the GRN cohort. Is there something you need to tell me about your current project? My heart is a fist in my throat. I keep my face neutral. Just tying up loose ends before I start writing my dissertation. Microbiome data. It might be useful for the discussion section. He studies me. 3 seconds. 5. Of course, keep me updated on your progress. He turns away. The conversation is over. I walk back to my bench. My hands are shaking. I put them in my lab coat pockets. The incubator hums. The blue glow. The silent vials. I have $70 and a confirmation number. He has $4 million in grants and the full weight of the university's tech transfer office. I am not winning. Not yet. But I am no longer invisible. Chapter 4, The Trapdoor. 2 weeks pass, the lab settles into its rhythm. Weiland is preoccupied. Grant renewals, speaking invitations, a consultation with a Boston-based pharmaceutical company. I hear fragments of his phone conversations through the thin office walls. Licensing terms, exclusivity period, milestone payments. He does not mention my name. I continue my parallel work. The microbiome data is clean, publishable. I draft a manuscript with myself as sole author. I don't intend to submit it. The value is in the timestamp, another record of conception, another link in the chain. Cynthia advises me to keep the provisional patent active but not to disclose it. He doesn't know you filed. That's your leverage. He thinks you're passive. Let him keep thinking that. Fatima invites me for coffee. We sit in the campus cafe, surrounded by undergraduates and their noisy certainties. She stirs her latte, doesn't drink it. Elena, I've been in this lab 8 years. I've seen 4 students leave under circumstances they wouldn't discuss. I've seen data disappear, authorship change, credit reassigned. She looks at me directly. I don't know what's happening with your project. I don't want to know, but I want you to be careful. I am careful. That's not what I mean. She sets down the spoon. Leonard is not stupid. If you're building a case against him, he will eventually notice. When he does, he won't confront you directly. He'll undermine you through channels, teaching evaluations, committee assignments, letters of recommendation you don't know he's written. He's done it before. I don't ask who. I don't want names. I want evidence. Thank you, I say. I'll be careful. She nods. She doesn't finish her coffee. She walks back to the lab ahead of me. The next morning, I receive an email from the graduate division. Subject, committee assignment. I open it. My dissertation committee has been restructured. 2 members I selected, Dr. Reyes from neurobiology, Dr. Chen from genetics, have been removed, replaced by Dr. Weiland and a professor from the business school whose expertise is technology commercialization. The email cites interdisciplinary alignment and strategic guidance for patent development. It is signed by Dean Srinivasan. I don't react. I don't respond. I forward it to Cynthia. Her reply is immediate. He's isolating you. This is good. Good? Yes, because it shows he perceives you as a threat. He's trying to control your defense before you even propose it. That means he's worried about what you might reveal. A pause. It also means we need to accelerate. Her plan is straightforward. We do not challenge the committee change. We do not complain to the dean. We do not alert Weiland to our awareness. Instead, I prepare my dissertation in secret, using the data he hasn't touched, the microbiome analysis, the serum biomarkers, the vector stability assays. These are not the core of the breakthrough. They are peripheral, supportive, but they are undeniably mine. I have the raw files, the laboratory notebooks, the time-stamped protocols. I can defend every figure. The core data, the mouse survival curves, the histology, the functional recovery scores remain in dispute. He has the tissues, he has the images, he has the files he copied from the server. If he publishes them without me, I have no legal claim to authorship, only to inventorship on the patent. The patent is my lifeline, but it is not my legacy. I need him to make a mistake. He makes it on a Tuesday. I arrive at the lab at 7 a.m. The door to Weiland's office is ajar. Inside, the desktop computer is on. The screen shows an email draft. I don't intend to read it. I glance involuntarily as I pass. The recipient field is filled. The subject line, confidential, licensing draft. I don't stop. I don't slow down. I continue to my bench, hang my coat, log into my terminal. But the words are already burned into my memory. The email is addressed to a senior vice president at a pharmaceutical company. The body describes a novel AAV9 vector developed in my laboratory. It lists therapeutic applications. It estimates market size. It proposes a timeline for exclusive licensing negotiations. My name is not mentioned, not once. I work through the morning. I pipette, label, centrifuge. My hands are steady. My mind is not. At noon, I walk to the restroom, lock the stall, and call Cynthia. He's shopping the license, I say. He's going to sign a deal. Once that happens, the university has a financial interest in his version of the invention. My provisional becomes an obstacle to their revenue stream. They'll bury me. How long until he signs? I don't know. Weeks, maybe days. She is quiet for a moment, then we change tactics. We stop building a case and start creating a crisis. What kind of crisis? The kind that forces an immediate choice between you and him, not a grievance committee, not a mediation, a binary decision for the university. Validate your claim now or face the consequences later. She pauses. Do you trust me? I think about my mother. I think about the 64 vials. I think about 3 years of nights and weekends, the missed birthdays, the canceled plans, the belief that the work would speak for itself. The work is silent. It has no voice except mine. Yes, I say, I trust you. Then here's what you're going to do. Chapter 5, The Irreversible Price. Cynthia's plan is simple in structure, devastating in execution. I do not file a grievance. I do not contact the dean. I do not demand mediation. Instead, I write a single email addressed to the university's general counsel with copies to the president, the provost, the chair of the faculty ethics committee, and the director of the tech transfer office. Subject: Notice of competing patent claim and request for investigation. The body is 4 paragraphs. Paragraph 1 states my name, my status, my project. Paragraph 2 states that I filed a provisional patent application for the AAV 9GRN vector 72 hours before Dr. Weiland's disclosure to tech transfer. I include the USPTO confirmation number. Paragraph 3 states that I possess extensive documentation of Dr. Weiland's unauthorized access to my data, his removal of physical specimens from my cohort, and his revision of authorship records. I list the evidence categories but not the specific files. Paragraph 4 states that I am not seeking financial compensation. I am seeking formal recognition of my inventorship on any patent filings and inclusion as first author on any manuscripts derived from my data. I request a response within 10 business days. I send it at 6 p.m. on a Thursday. I do not tell anyone. I go home. I sleep 12 hours. The response arrives at 9:15 a.m. on Friday. It is not from the general counsel. It is from Dean Srinivasan's office, requesting an informal meeting to clarify concerns. I forward it to Cynthia. She replies, decline. Insist on formal investigation. Copy the original recipients. I decline. I insist. I copy. Monday morning, I arrive at the lab to find my key card access suspended. The graduate division administrator informs me that, pending review of your allegations, it is appropriate to temporarily separate the parties. I am assigned a corral in the library. I am instructed not to contact any members of the Weiland lab. I am assured the matter will be resolved expeditiously. I am locked out. I sit in the library corral surrounded by books I do not read, and I wait. Derek calls. Cynthia calls. I update my evidence log. I write a timeline of every relevant event from my first day in the lab to this moment. It is 27 pages. I print 3 copies. I mail one to my mother's caregiver with instructions to open it only if I die or disappear. It feels melodramatic. I do it anyway. On Wednesday, I receive a subpoena, not for me, for the university. The USPTO has initiated a derivation proceeding to determine priority of invention. My provisional filing triggered an automatic review when Weiland's non-provisional application was submitted. The patent office needs documentation from both parties. Cynthia is jubilant. He filed the non-provisional. He thought he was securing his priority date. Instead, he just guaranteed a public record of the dispute. She pauses. This is it, Elena. This is the moment. They can't quietly resolve this anymore. There's a federal clock ticking. For 2 weeks, I exist in a strange limbo. I am not a student. I cannot attend classes, cannot access the lab, cannot interact with my committee. I am not an employee. My stipend continues, but I have no duties. I am a case file, a collection of documents, and timestamps and sworn declarations. I review the university's response to the USPTO. They assert that Dr. Weiland conceived the invention independently and that my contributions were routine technical assistance. They include a statement from Weiland denying any unauthorized access to my data. They do not mention the audit logs. They do not mention the photograph notebook pages. They do not mention the tissue samples. They think I don't know about those things. They think I have only circumstantial evidence. On a Friday afternoon, Cynthia calls. The university's outside counsel requested a settlement meeting. They want to resolve this before the USPTO schedules a hearing. Her voice is carefully neutral. They're offering a deal. What kind of deal? You withdraw the derivation proceeding. You assign all rights to the patent to the university. In exchange, they offer you a co-inventor credit on the filing and a non-exclusive research license for academic purposes. No royalties, no financial compensation. She pauses. And you must leave the program. They'll allow you to master out with a terminal master's degree. No dissertation defense. No PhD. I am silent. Elena, they're testing you. They want to see if you'll fold for a consolation prize. Her voice hardens. Here is our counter. You retain sole inventorship. The university may license the patent, but you receive a percentage of gross royalties, standard rate for non-employee inventors. You complete your PhD with a new advisor, chosen by you, with full access to your original data. Weiland issues a written apology to be placed in your permanent file. Non-negotiable. They'll never agree to that. Probably not, but it shifts the Overton window. They start at leave quietly with nothing. We counter at stay and win. The resolution will be somewhere in the middle. She pauses again. Are you prepared for the middle? I think about the 64 vials. I think about my mother who no longer knows my face. I think about 3 years of believing that excellence would be recognized, that justice was a natural consequence of truth. What's the middle, I ask him. You retain co-inventorship. You receive a modest royalty, maybe 1%. You graduate, but not with Weiland. Someone else takes over your committee. Your dissertation uses only the data generated after the dispute began. The original mouse trial data is excluded. She pauses. You lose the core of your discovery. It becomes his, legally and permanently. But you get your degree and a clean exit. I don't answer immediately. The library is quiet. Outside, students walk past the windows, unaware that a war is ending in this corral. And if I refuse the middle, if I push for the full counter, then we go to the USPTO hearing. We present the evidence. We probably win on inventorship, but it takes 18 months minimum. Your funding ends in 6. Your mother's condition will not wait. And Weiland will spend every day of those 18 months destroying your reputation through channels that leave no fingerprints. Her voice softens. I'm not advising you to settle. I'm advising you to choose your definition of victory before the battle defines it for you. I choose. The negotiation takes 4 days. The final terms are typed on university letterhead, signed by the general counsel, countersigned by me. I retain co-inventorship on the patent. My name appears second, after Weiland. The royalty rate is 0.75%, paid to me directly, capped at $500,000 total. I transfer to a different lab, one that studies basic mechanisms of neurodegeneration without any translational component. My mother's cells will never become a therapy under my name. I will never see the human trial data. Weiland issues no apology. His statement, drafted by University Counsel, says only, Dr. Voss made valuable technical contributions to the project. I acknowledge her role in the optimization of certain protocols. It is placed in my file. I am not permitted to share it. I defend my dissertation 9 months later. The committee includes my new advisor, 2 outside members, and a representative from the graduate division. Weiland is not present. I present the microbiome data, the serum biomarkers, the stability assays. It is competent, thorough, unremarkable. No one asks about the mice. No one asks about the cured animals, the reversed pathology, the breakthrough that will bear another man's name. After the defense, my new advisor shakes my hand. You did good work, Elena. I'm sorry it ended this way. I don't know what to say. I thank him. I gather my papers. I walk out of the building. The lab is 3 blocks away. I don't go there. I don't need to. I know what the -80 contains. 64 vials. 3 years. A future that belongs to someone else. I go home. I call my mother's caregiver. She says my mother had a good day, remembered my name, asked when I was coming to visit. I book a flight for the following week. That night, I dream of the incubator. Its steady, patient hum, the blue glow, the silent vials, waiting for hands that will never thaw them. Chapter 6, The Valley. I defended on a Friday. On Monday, I packed my apartment into 12 cardboard boxes and drove west, not to a mountain cabin. That belongs to a different story, a different kind of escape. I drove to a city I'd never visited, 3 states away, where I knew no one and no one knew my name. I rented a 1-bedroom above a laundromat. I applied for research positions at small biotech companies, the kind that don't ask too many questions about patent disputes. I didn't list Weiland as a reference. I didn't list anyone from my graduate program except my new advisor, who wrote a letter that described me as diligent and methodical. It was accurate. It was not effusive. I didn't get those jobs. 3 months after my defense, I accepted a position as a laboratory manager at a regional teaching university. The salary was less than my graduate stipend. The work was supervising undergraduates, ordering supplies, ensuring the -80 freezers stayed at -80. My office was a converted storage closet. I hung my diploma on the wall. I didn't look at it. The patent issued 18 months later. I received an automated notification from the USPTO. I searched the database, found the filing. Inventors, Leonard Weiland, Elena Voss. Assignee, the university. I downloaded the PDF, read the claims. They were broad, sweeping, exactly what I'd proposed in my original provisional. The vector design, the purification method, the blood-brain barrier penetration strategy, all of it reduced to text, owned by the institution that had locked me out. I closed the browser. I went back to the -80 logs. An undergraduate had mislabeled a box of plasma samples. I spent the afternoon correcting the inventory. It was tedious, meaningless, necessary. I told myself that necessity was enough. 2 years passed. The university's tech transfer office issued quarterly royalty statements. My 0.75% share amounted to checks between $300 and $800. I deposited them without comment. I did not track the cumulative total. I did not calculate what I would have earned as sole inventor. Then, on a Tuesday, I received an email from an address I didn't recognize. The subject line, Weiland Lab, Data Integrity Investigation. I opened it. The sender was a reporter from a science news publication. She was investigating allegations of image manipulation in 3 papers co-authored by Leonard Weiland. The allegations had been submitted anonymously to the journal's integrity office. 2 of the papers included data from the GRN mouse trials. The reporter had obtained my name from the patent filing. She wanted to know if I had any comment. I stared at the screen for a long time. I did not reply immediately. I called Derek Okonkwo, who is still a legal aid attorney, who still remembers my case. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he said, "You don't owe him silence. You never did." I signed a settlement. You signed an agreement about inventorship and royalties. You didn't sign an NDA. You didn't agree to conceal misconduct. He paused. Elena, this isn't about the patent anymore. This is about the scientific record. If his data is fabricated, the papers should be retracted. The clinical trial candidates should be reevaluated. Patients' lives depend on that. I thought about the mice, the 4 animals with complete reversal, the fixed brains he took, the chain of custody broken. I would never know if those images were real. I would never know if he had fabricated them outright or simply selected the most favorable fields, the most responsive subjects, the most publishable angles. I would never know, and neither would the patients who enrolled in the Phase 1 trial scheduled to open next spring. I called the reporter. I didn't accuse. I didn't speculate. I described my experimental protocols, my data collection methods, the chain of custody for the disputed tissue samples. I explained that I could not verify the histology images in the published papers because the physical specimens had been removed from the animal facility before I could perform independent analysis. I stated facts. I did not editorialize. The investigation took 8 months. The journal issued an expression of concern, then a retraction. The university convened a research integrity committee. Weiland took medical leave. The Phase 1 trial was suspended pending review. I did not celebrate. I did not feel vindicated. I felt the quiet satisfaction of a debt partially repaid, a record partially corrected. 3 weeks after the retraction, I received a phone call. The voice was familiar, though I hadn't heard it in years. Fatima. She had left the lab shortly after my departure, accepted a faculty position at a small liberal arts college. She sounded tired, older. "I wanted you to know," she said, "the other postdocs are coming forward. They have their own evidence. Data manipulation, authorship coercion, inappropriate use of university resources. The investigation is expanding." I didn't ask why she was telling me this. I already knew. "Elena, you started this. You filed the patent. You forced the record. If you hadn't," she stopped, "he would still be operating. The trial would have enrolled. The patients would have received a vector we still don't know is safe or effective." She paused. "I should have said something years ago. I'm sorry." I didn't accept her apology. I didn't reject it. I said, "Thank you for telling me," and ended the call. That night, I sat in my converted storage closet office and thought about the 64 vials. I didn't know if they still existed. I didn't know if they had been discarded, transferred, or simply forgotten. The university had not contacted me about them. Weiland was on leave. The lab was under investigation. No one was tending the -80. I didn't drive back. I didn't try to reclaim them. They belonged to a version of myself I no longer recognized. The one who believed that hard work guaranteed recognition, that institutions protected the vulnerable, that truth inevitably prevailed. That Elena had been naive, that Elena had lost. But this Elena, the one in the storage closet, the one with the 0.75% royalty statements in the diploma gathering dust. This Elena had something else. Not victory, not justice. Something quieter. Something I had almost forgotten I possessed. Evidence. I opened my secure email account. I composed a message to the Research Integrity Committee, attaching the audit logs, the manuscript revision history, the photographs of my notebook pages. I wrote no explanation. I didn't need to. The documents spoke for themselves. I sent it at 4:17 a.m., the same hour I had watched him photograph my work through the cryostorage door. Then I turned off my computer, walked out of the building, and stood in the empty parking lot. The sky was beginning to lighten. Somewhere in another state, a -80 freezer hummed its steady, patient hum. Somewhere, 64 vials waited in the blue glow. I didn't know if they would ever be thawed. I didn't know if the investigation would restore my name, my career, my years of labor. I didn't know if my mother would live to see a treatment that bore someone else's patent number. But I knew this: I had not disappeared. I had not accepted invisibility. I had not let him rewrite the record without leaving my own marks, my own timestamps, my own unerasable claim to the truth. The best revenge, I have learned, is not confrontation. It is not public humiliation. It is not the satisfaction of watching your enemy fall. The best revenge is the work itself, the evidence you gather when no one is watching, the record you preserve when everyone expects you to retreat, the patient, methodical construction of a case that will outlast the accuser, the institution, the memory of the theft itself. I don't know if I will ever return to the bench. I don't know if I will ever hold a pipette again, or design a vector, or watch a mouse recover from a disease that stole my mother's mind. But I know that I am not finished. I know that the work continues, not in the lab but in the archive, the investigation, the long unwinding of a lie that thought it would never be exposed. The incubator hums, the vials wait, and I am still here.